Something that you have really gotten into in Tallahassee is the whole issue of the use or uses of marijuana.
Yes.
And you're going to be involved in a panel on the various uses of marijuana for medical purposes. That proposed constitutional amendment, number 2, did not pass this year. So where does that leave the state of Florida and the legislature in dealing with that issue?
Well, first, you know, one of the criticisms that Matt Gaetz and I took last session was that we were doing the legislation known as the Charlotte's Web bill as an attempt to defeat Amendment 2. It was never guaranteed that Amendment 2 was going to pass, given that Florida has a very high threshold, 60%, to amend the Constitution. That's one of the reasons why we pushed very hard to continue with the legislation in the legislature, to make sure that even if Amendment 2 were to fail, that we would still be able to have something, a framework that we can continue to build upon. And the Department of Health rulemaking workshops, we held about 3 over the summertime. We heard from all the individuals who were going to have a role in implementing our legislation. And we know that we have some work to do to implement a glitch bill, if you will, to make sure that we can address those issues that we heard from the public.
In terms of the glitch bill, what are some of the sub-issues? Well, let me go back. Let me just say Charlotte's Web. Explain what that is that's different from the issues addressed with the medical marijuana constitutional amendment.
Sure.
What's Charlotte's Web? I know you know all about it, but a lot of people still don't.
Sure. Well, what the public now knows from like CNN special that Sanjay Gupta did to educate the public on Charlotte's Web, it's actually named for a young girl who has Dravet syndrome. Her name is Charlotte Figge. She lives out in Colorado. There was a group of brothers who took the marijuana plant and they derived these extracts, and they were able to find the right ratio of what's called CBD to THC. THC, of course, which is the component that causes the euphoric effects. And they were able to administer to a young patient this oil, and they found that over time it actually decreased the number and severity of seizures that this child with Dravet syndrome was experiencing. As a result of that, Colorado has been experiencing this medical marijuana refugee movement of families who could not get this in their own states, relocating, packing up, moving their lives and their families to Colorado to be able to have access to this still very experimental type treatment. They're going through what I would call these anecdotal trials and trying to find a way to provide greater access. But unless we're able to do more of these type trials with this patient population, keep in mind, Steve, the type of patients we're dealing with, they've been through experimental surgeries, they've been through your traditional pharmaceuticals. These parents come to us and they are at their wits' end and they're saying, look, I'm willing to try this. And we're talking about, again, a derivative from a plant that will not get your child high. It's very difficult to tell these patients no when they've already been through so much already. And having it available here in Florida to at least expand the body of growing research and interest was very important to Chairman Gaetz and I. And that's why he pushed very hard with this bill. The bill was not limited to just kids with epilepsy. At the very end, thanks to our colleague, Dave Hood, who's now a judge in Volusia County, we were able to include cancer patients and those with illnesses like Parkinson's and ALS.